The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
Antonio, Texas. Dive into everything happening in the world of professional wrestling. Let's get into the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Chaos Theory Podcast. If you don't know by now, you ain't been paying attention. But for everybody else, my name is Mr. Chaos. I'm the creator, the founder, and the curator of the Chaos Theory Podcast. Today, I have somebody who I just met through Twitter. This is the good side of Twitter, I promise. Who is doing something that I'm very excited about. One, as a fan of wrestling, it just is time to get all the negative bullshit out of the way and time to become positive and time to start showing love. And two, as a person with children in this world, the negativity is overwhelming. So if I can show my kids somebody being positive and trying to bring positive change to a world that I absolutely love and that my daughter loves, why am I not going to showcase that person? So she runs her own podcast. She is the queen of the indies. You guys, when we talk about what she's doing right now, I promise you it's gonna hit your brain in a way like, oh fuck, why didn't I think of that? You guys, please help me welcome a very, 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 very special guest, the queen of the indies, Miss Tiffany. How are you, ma'am?
I'm great. Oh my goodness, that introduction. It means a lot. Like, wow. Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's jump right in and tell everybody what I'm talking about. What is this episode, this special thing that you're doing on your show?
Okay. So it's funny because it started last year. So I'm going to backtrack, which will kind of lead into currently, or,
Absolutely.
So last year, and it starts off with a story that kind of triggered it, with the fact of being a podcaster, getting opportunities to work backstage, working with wrestlers, having interviews. Obviously, I do a lot with indie wrestling. So I get a lot of opportunities, and again, like, I like to show fun and I like to have fun and get to learn about like some of my favorite wrestlers and bring it out to light. So there was a story that really melted my heart. So I have a friend who her kid is disabled. She has CP, cerebral palsy, and pretty much, she loves going to all the wrestling shows with her mom, which is always fun. And there's like a bunch of promotions that we support. And of course, like, she likes all the, she's young, she's like 14, and she loves like all the male wrestlers and ring announcers and things like that. So her birthday was coming up, and her mom, okay, I'm gonna throw her a wrestling birthday party pretty much. And I'm like, okay. But she was like, everything's like WWE if you're gonna go to the party store, like, what are we gonna do? And I'm like, okay, I got it. I was like, we're gonna make this work. I was like, we're gonna go, because she loves wearing a ref shirt all the shows. I was like, we're gonna do black and white streamers. I was like, she has a friend that makes a cake. She made like a ring cake pretty much. And I was like, we're gonna use the fact, I was like, that I'm a podcaster. I was like, and I'm friends with a lot of these wrestlers. I was like, and I'm gonna reach out to them and see if they would like donate like 8x10s, or I'll pay for it. I was like, I don't care, like, whatever it is, because they know, the mom and the kid and everything. So I went after a whole bunch of wrestlers that I knew she was a fan of. So anyway, there was one wrestler, and we're not going to say his name because this is one of those anonymous stories. And I had reached out to him, and he told me that he loves the little girl, that, he wanted to send something. Obviously it didn't wind up happening in time, and that's fine. So I don't know, he had reached out to me again and asked me if I was coming to one of the shows, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna come to this show. He's like, okay. He's like, let me know when you come. And I was like, okay, great. So I get to the venue, I come downstairs to the locker room, he comes outside, he brings me his first in-ring rope. The like you can see like me like every time like I think about this story, I'm like, shit. Like, like this is such a great story. And I was like, I can't believe somebody, would do this. So when I came upstairs and like to give it to the mom and the kid, it's like, oh my God, like I can't believe he did that. Like it's just such an amazing gesture. So like I told him and I gave him a huge hug because it was just like me and him downstairs, like before I came upstairs, and I was like, you just gave me something that even though it's not my kid, it's my friend's kid. I was like, but you just gave me a memory and something that will always stick with me. So that kind of started this thing of wrestling with positivity. And I was talking to another wrestler like days later, and I was telling this story. And I was like, I can't believe like he did this. And the guy, the wrestler, actually ended up telling me a story about how there was another disabled kid who was a fan of his. And he came over, the wrestler, he was a heel, he came over and obviously he was really nice to the kid. And I was like, this is such a sweet story. I was like, so he told me that the father was so impressed that he messaged him days later. And he was like, listen, he was like, I really appreciated that, you came over, it's up to you. I would love to invite you to his birthday party. So he goes over to the birthday party. He comes in, the cake's made of his face. I'm like, I was like, this is so sweet. So he told me for 10 years that he's been going to the Special Olympics for that kid, for the son's kid every year, 10 years. And I was like, wow. So this triggered me. And I was like, these are stories that as a fan, you don't hear about, and I was like, I love this. And I was like, I work with a lot of wrestlers. I know a lot of parents, there's always stories. And I was like, I'm going to put together wrestling with positivity. And I've also incorporated into every interview that I do now because I feel like this is something that everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. So any wrestler that comes on or ref or promoter, like this is what I bring up every interview. And every story is just, amazing. I want to bring all this stuff to light. So I did the first video last year. I got almost 2 hours worth of footage. Like, oh my God, this thing blew up. Some people like I recorded with, and then it wind up being like 20 minutes long because there were so many stories. Parents hit me up, friends hit me up. Like it was great. So one of my other friends said to me, you should do a series. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, let me get through the first one, see how it takes off. And just like, no, you should make this a series. So a couple of people had recently reached out to me. They're like, just do another video. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, should I really do this as a series? Or is this like a one-time thing that I just incorporated into my interviews? They're like, no, you should do it. So I was like, all right, we're back at it again, round 2. And it was nice because a bunch of other people reached out to me that obviously didn't reach out the first time. There's been a couple of people that came back this one, from the first video as well. So these stories, every story again, I want to cry. Like get the tissues.
Yeah. So speaking of, I still have to email you my video. I'll do that tomorrow. I know it's time crunch, but I've been insanely crazy busy. But I told you the story about my daughter. The one that I'm going to tell now, I've talked about, I think, before on a couple of other podcasts, but it's huge to me. So in 2007, I was in the Army National Guard in Maryland. And I just happened to, at this point, I was homeless. I was living in my National Guard armory. I was waiting to go to Iraq, like all of this stuff, just shit. And I was 21 years old, just shit piling on my head. You know what I mean? Walk outside to smoke a cigarette. And where my armory is at, literally two feet down the way, there's a like a shopping mall, not a shopping mall, but like you know what I mean? Like it's got a Walmart shopping center.
Okay. Yeah, shopping center. Yeah.
Jesus. Shopping center. So I go over there and there's a giant crowd of people. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I'm still in uniforms, everything. So what the hell is going on here? And one of the guys was like, it's a indie wrestling show. This is 2007. It's a little promotion called Maryland Championship Wrestling, which is a pretty big deal on the East Coast,
Mhm.
in Maryland specifically, obviously. But so I'm standing there. I don't have any money. I guess whoever was the booker, the promoter, the owner, whoever was at the door noticed me in uniform, and he was like, "Hey, are you coming in?" I said, "I would. I don't have the money for a ticket." He was like, "You're good. Let me in.
Mhm.
No pay."
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and 10 minutes before the show starts, that same guy comes in. He was like, "Listen, after the show, I'm going to let you go backstage and meet some of the guys."
Aw.
And I was like, you know, and at 21, I was like, what the hell? Like, I don't deserve any of this.
Right.
And watch the dude, this card was insane. Test was there, Homicide and Hernandez was there, Abyss was there, Roderick Strong, way back, Roderick
Mhm,
Strong was
mhm, mhm.
there. And you know, I'm a fan of heels because I like you that you have to think a lot more as a heel.
Yeah.
So I'm in uniform cheering for LAX, who are the most disrespectful to white people in America and everything. But I dig them because they're really well done and there's a lot of thought put into everything.
Mhm.
So match is over, cards over, and the last main event of the match, Test was against some local guy, right?
Mhm.
Test comes, sees me in uniform, comes over, and he was like, "Hey, after the show, do not go anywhere. I want to buy you a beer."
Aw.
And I was like, "Okay." You know, people are nice. People say stuff like that. Go. The promoter comes, finds me, which I didn't hold him to because you know you say nice stuff and sometimes it just doesn't get done.
Right.
He comes and gets me, takes me back. First people I meet are Homicide and Hernandez. And Hernandez looks at me and he was like, "Dude, why were you cheering us?" He was like, he's like, "Look, first off, we're heels. You're supposed to boo the bad guys."
I
And
do
he
the
said,
same thing.
and he said, he was like, and two, like all this disrespect that we've laid out on TNA and towards the United States. I said, listen, I'm a 21-year-old man getting ready to go to Iraq. Like, I know what wrestling is. I know
Yeah.
the entertainment. So I don't take that as, oh, he's shitting on America or he's that, this, that, and the third. So we had that conversation. Could not have been nicer guys.
Yeah.
Couldn't have been nicer guys. So I'm shaking their hands. I get pictures with them, get autographs. I mean, Hernandez gave me a t-shirt, Homicide gave me a t-shirt. Like it was just all sorts of just sweetheart stuff.
Yeah.
I come out and Abyss is there. And he literally grabs me by my shoulder, grabs my cell phone, which was this is how old I am, kids, a Motorola Razor. And we take a picture with on my Motorola on my Razor.
Those are the great phones back then.
Oh, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. So he's hugging me. We grab this, we take the picture, and he's like, "Come back safe." Smacks me on the back, and I don't want to stay around and be a bother.
Yeah.
Test literally sees me. He's in his autograph line. He's got like 3 people left. He's sitting here. I'm getting ready to walk out the door, and he grabs me by my collar and he said, "I told you don't go anywhere. I'm gonna buy you a beer."
Right.
Bought me a beer. We hung out, dude. It was insanely. I didn't pay for anything. They refused to let me pay for anything. Like, this is the type of stuff that I think more people on the internet and
Mhm.
more people in general need to see in the wrestling world.
Yeah.
Maybe you hate WWE, maybe you hate AEW, whatever. Dude, go to your local independent show. There are fucking great matches and great people there.
Yeah.
Great people there. How did you get into independent wrestling?
Oh man. It's like a while ago. It's just funny because one of my friends, I was dating his friend. And we were hanging out, I think at a bar one day. We were just talking, and he was telling me, he was like, we were talking about wrestling, and he was like, "Oh, I ref." And I was like, "Oh yeah?" I was like, "Oh, I want to come," like, and then like the guy, his friend, I'm not with the guy anymore, and I'm still friends with this guy. But he's like, he only refs. I was like, so what? That's your friend. I was like, let's go support your friend. I was like, I don't care. I was like, if he's just refing, I was like, let's go support your friend. So I didn't know about like independent wrestling. So I wind up going to an SWA promotion in Long Island, New York, and I would continuously go. Actually, they stopped for a while, like, and then they just apparently they just like rebooted back
Mhm.
up, I think, recently. But this is years ago, you know. So I started hanging out with that guy. Um, you know, we used to go to shows, and then I used to do the WWE thing too with him. I don't watch WWE anymore. I watch AEW. And even that, like lately, I feel like I'm back onto this whole indie train more than anything.
Yep.
Uh, you know, but you know, again, it's your preference of what you
Mhm.
like. You know, there's a reason why I'm Queen of the Indies. You know, but you know, that's what kind of started, and then I just started going. Then I had House of Glory by my house, so it was another way to meet like WWE guys because they would get a lot of WWE guys, and then I was like, oh, show. I was like, okay, like these guys are good, you know, and you know, this is just continued on, and anybody that knows me knows I'm a huge fan of Anthony Gangone. He's very important to me into the indies, and I decided to support him and follow to other promotions that he would go to. And I found a whole shitload of promotions I did not know existed, which led into me supporting promotions, supporting wrestlers at other promotions, and it just keeps going.
Yeah.
So, but even like me watching promotions that aren't even in New York, like again, I travel to Jersey, I travel to Massachusetts, you know, like I'll travel. I've been to Pennsylvania. You know, bucket lists are there. I want to go to BLP. I want to go to Warrior Wrestling. Like, you know, PPW. There's so many promotions like I want to get to.
Ooh, PPW down here
Yeah.
in Texas would be. You'll have, man. I'm telling you, you come down to Texas, it's a different. It's so different than the East Coast. When I got here in 2014, I was like, why the fuck is everybody moving so slow?
Yeah. It's different.
It's completely different. But dude, the wrestling right now. So we've got just in San Antonio, the three top schools in San Antonio. Dog Pound Dojo
Mhm.
is run by Jazz and Rodney Mack.
Mhm.
Talk about fucking Hall of Fame talent.
Mhm.
Then you've got um, Hybrid School of Wrestling, which is run by Chris Marvel, who's a Texas legend, and Sho Funaki.
Mhm.
Everybody knows Funaki. And then you've got Mission Pro. And Mission Pro trains with the Dog Pound guys. They're kind of, you know, Jazz helps behind the scenes at Mission Pro, and Thunder Rosa helps train and stuff like that. They're all three kind of the triangle down there, but it's you know, there's so much cool shit happening on the independent scene. Like I just bought my ticket to AEW when they come in San Antonio,
Mhm.
and my wife was like, "Are you going to take your daughter?" And I said, "No, not to a major, because it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
At a major at AEW, I'm going to go, I'm going to watch the show, and there's two shows because they're doing a Dynamite and a
Right.
Rampage.
Right. And
So
then you
I'm
got
going to
your
watch the
dark and all
show.
that.
Yeah, we're going to
A
watch
lot.
the show. That first show is going to end. The second show is going to start. And then at the end of the second show, you just go away. There's no autographs. There's
Yep.
no buying merch. There's none of that. It's
Yeah.
not the same
Different.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm on the same train where I'm such an indie head now, which is so crazy. But like I've literally today, I watched Kevin Steen and El Generico versus the Young Bucks from PWG from like
Wow.
'06. Like that's the kind of indies kick I'm on. And I thank God that I moved to Texas, because I don't know without being in Texas that I would have ever dove back into the indies.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing thing, the indies. It's nuts. Even me, like I go back, I watch stuff like, or I'll go back and look up you know, some of my favorite wrestlers like Arcadia. Arcadia's been around forever, and like you know, I'll go back and I'll watch like stuff from 2012 or 2002, and it's like, dude, like what the
Yeah.
fuck?
Yeah. I mean, we really are in a golden age of independent wrestling
Yeah.
right now. One, because of social media.
Yeah.
Two, because of podcasters like you and I, we can
Mhm.
get people's messages out to thousands and thousands and thousands of
Yeah.
people across the world that they may never have
Known.
never have even imagined that they would get to.
Yeah.
But what's cool is like the friendships that I've made from wrestling on Twitter is
Mhm.
insane. Like the two network videos that I have to, that don't have to, but I show before my show, all of that came from wrestling Twitter and just being a decent person.
Right. Right.
And I think this idea, the wrestling with positivity that you're talking about, it shows that side where, you know, we all see the hatred
Yeah.
of everybody talking about Swole or her kid, like, and then all the speaking out movement that happened that is still continuing to happen. By the way, just so everybody, my weekly quota, fuck you, Joey Ryan. Yeah, just my weekly quota of that. Anyways, we're in such a good spot, and I think, you know, as well as I do, the environment's changed in independent wrestling.
Yeah.
You are starting to see more women's only promotions coming up. You're
Mhm.
starting to see companies like GCW, Beyond Wrestling. Speaking of Beyond Wrestling, man,
Mm.
holy shit, Keith Lee's
Mhm.
a free agent. That's all I'm saying. Um,
Seriously.
we're in this cool ass spot now. Oh shit, my boy. Speaking of independent wrestling, Kenji Brea, watching that on Twitter. He belongs to a faction called the Death Threat Army. If you don't know the Death Threat Army, everybody listening, if you don't know the Death Threat Army and you're an independent shit, if you're a wrestling fan in general, DTA all day. It's not a promise. It's a death threat. My dog, man, I love those guys. Like, I found out about them on Twitter, and it's been all love ever since. And that's what's cool about what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Has there, where you're at right now?
Mm-hmm.
When I was looking up your show, I saw 149 episodes, right?
Yeah. Shit.
That's
It's a lot.
insane.
That's
Insanity.
that's just my interviews. That's not including panels where I've had wrestlers join in on panels.
Mhm.
You know, that I've done backstage stuff. Like, so you see a bunch of wrestlers backstage. Some of them I haven't actually done full blown interviews with
Mhm.
them yet. You know, it's hard. You know, it's like I feel like I've been steamrolling a lot lately more because I was going like maybe God when I started doing the indie interviews, it was like maybe once a month, maybe.
Mhm.
Now it's like, all right, I can do 5 this week. And it's still not enough to me. Like, I'm like, damn, I want to show like I'll watch somebody, like you said, Russell Open. Like,
Mhm.
you know, I just saw Kylon King and I'm like, dude, I can't stop talking about this guy. So I messaged him and I'm like, okay, you're coming on the podcast, right? Because like now he like friended me because I'm obsessed with bridges and he's got a gorgeous bridge. And anybody that knows, I was like, instant love for me is if you do the perfect bridge. If you do the perfect bridge, you're sold. Like, that's it. You're mine now. Like, um, but you know, like I told him, he was like, "Thank you so much for like supporting." And like he's new to me, even though he's been around a little
Mhm.
bit, but he's new to me. And I was like, "You have a fan for life now." I said, "You do the perfect bridge." I was like, but we were just talking about like one of his matches, and you know, I was just giving a bunch of insight from me, and I was like, man, I was like, you're clean in the ring. You're 22. I was like, damn. I was like, shit. They're getting younger and younger and younger. Um, but yeah, it's nuts. And there's so many wrestlers out there to support.
Oh my god, it's insane. Like I said, Death Threat Army is a Midwest thing.
Mhm.
Um, and you know, you can't talk about independent wrestling without talking about Shane Taylor Promotions.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit! What? Yes, Ring of Honor was kind of a major company, and they had TV time, but they're not AEW. They're not WWE.
Right.
Dude, I know people in fucking Canada talking about Shane Taylor Promotions.
Yeah.
That's that's the insane thing about being a wrestling fan now.
Mhm.
And like you said, you can start actually forming friendships with some of these people. Like, there's a guy, and you should check him out. He's so dope. He's not not that old in the game. I think he's only been wrestling like 1 or 2 years, but his name's Alexander Crowley. He
Okay.
and his wife Lilith um are called the Cult of Crowley.
Okay.
And their vibe is kind of Malachi Blackish, and he
Mhm.
has that kind of style in the ring. The way you're a sucker for bridges, I am a sucker for a wrestler who can make me feel like, oh shit, like this guy, what the fuck is he like, he's beating the shit out of that dude.
Mhm, mhm,
Crowley is that. When
mhm,
Crowley hits a knee,
mhm. Oh man, you gotta send me. You
oh
gotta
yeah,
it's like
I'll
you
send you
send me,
some. Oh yeah, I'll
send me,
definitely
yeah,
send you
yeah.
some
Send
clips.
me some stuff.
Kenji Brea, the guy who's watching right now, Kenji is dope as fuck. I mean, dope as fuck. Like I'm trying to think who the match was against. Was it Alan Angels that he had a match against? And Alan was down on the ground, and Kenji hit him with a super kick, and Alan sold this super kick where he did like from his ass or from his knees, like a 360, kind of Leo Rush spin.
Oh,
I was
damn.
like, God,
Oh,
Jesus.
okay. All
Yes.
right. I'm on the train. I'm here for it.
Oh yeah. Kenji Brea. Oh, and if you like this is why I love my podcast, because I can nerd out about indie wrestling with people. It's so fucking
Yes,
cool.
I know.
There's a guy in the same. There's that whole group you need to know. Kenji is the technician, the striker.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Weir is also god damn, he's a striker too. That guy's a legit black belt, like legit black belt.
Oh boy.
Tommy Vendetta is their deathmatch guy.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say deathmatch, I mean one of his matches, somebody stapled a $20 bill to his forehead.
I love those moments.
You'll
John
love Tommy
Silver.
Vendetta.
John
You will
Silver.
love Vendetta. He's insane.
This is the nice thing too about podcasts is like, would even be like Queen of the Indies and stuff there. I still always say like I'm a fraud with the name because there's still so many people out there that it's like I don't know about. And it's nice too, is like because when you could actually talk to other people that support, like you're talking about all these people that I'm not as aware of, then just like maybe there are some names that I can sit here that you're not aware of because of the fact that I'm over here in New York, and then again, like you said, like, like I go beyond, I support like BLP or whatever. I support the promotions I support, that I know, but there's so many promotions. It's impossible to keep up with everything. But it's like those things, like, you could sit here and you can talk to me about certain people, like, okay, I'm interested. Let me see. Let me watch this match or something. Like, I got texted by a wrestler earlier that they were asking me if I knew somebody. I was like, no. I was like, who is that? And I was like, okay. Then I looked them up and I was like, okay. I was like, I'm with it, so it's nice for people like us that support indie wrestling and promotion, trying to get them out there because it's like, oh, like they caught my eye. Like everybody needs to know about this person.
Oh yeah. And for me, I love Shane Taylor Promotions, but those guys, they got Death Threat Army has gotten themselves over, but Shane Taylor Promotions did it on a whole different level with ROH because they had a little bit bigger machine.
Yeah.
Like Kenji said, he's the madman, but Tommy Vendetta is a fucking psychopath, and he's not wrong. He calls himself the lovable psychopath.
Oh, I'm here for it.
Fucking insane. They're heavy hitter, and we'll move on after this. But I have to tell you, there's a couple of guys. Jack Price is their high flying.
Oh, I'm with it. I'm a high flying, give me flippy crap. Like give it to me. Like
he's he does the best frog splash on the indies.
All right, I gotta see it because I have a couple of frog splashes too that I love myself. So I need to see.
Jack Price. So there's only one person in wrestling that I know that's, God rest Eddie's soul, but aside from Eddie, that does a better frog splash than Jack Price.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've heard of her. She's a Puerto Rican wrestler named Rosa Negra.
Mm-hmm. No, I haven't heard of it. Yeah. Okay.
Oh my God. Like she makes D-Lo's. You remember when D-Lo would do the sky high off the top rope? Or the low down.
Yeah.
She makes his shit look like a 2-year-old.
Oh shit.
Like this girl, this woman is about 5'2.5" with boots on.
Mm-hmm.
And when she jumps and hits her frog splash, it feels like she's in the air for 30 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, it's fucking insane. But Jack has the next best frog splash compared to her. Aaron O'Ryan leads the group. He's mentally insane as well. I love Aaron. He's so dope, but he's mentally insane in his matches. He had a match against Josh Alexander. You have to check out.
Okay.
And last but not least, I love everybody in DTA, but I'm such a big fan of Isaiah Broner.
Mm-hmm.
He's their heavy hitting, jaw jocking.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so you know Isaiah?
Yeah, I know Isaiah. Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
I know.
That's my guy. Like anytime he'll tweet something about him clotheslining something, I'll retweet it, and because I call Isaiah the modern day Mike Tyson.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you look at dudes in the ring, and Isaiah's coming to the ring, they get that oh fuck look in their face. And that's what Tyson used to do.
Right.
Dude, yeah. Death Threat Army, I don't think there's a person in Death Threat Army that you would not fuck with. They're
I love it.
so
Like
dope.
you get that passion, right? Like when you're so behind somebody and you're like, shit, I do it all the time. Like, damn, why are you so good?
Yeah.
Why are you so good?
Yeah.
Like, it should be illegal for you to be
Oh,
that good.
yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
The other thing I want to ask you about is we're now in an era of independent wrestling where intergender matches are becoming a big thing. What's your as a woman? You know, I have my take on them, but my
Mhm.
take is not that of a woman.
Right.
What is your take on intergender matches?
Intergender matches are actually like one of my most favorite things. You know, like it's so cool. And this is usually a conversation that I have with a lot of the independent wrestlers that come on. And they talk about, everybody's got different, thoughts on it or whatever. Some wrestlers they'll tell you that they should just like normalize it. Like, you had those promotions where there is no women's title because the women are just as good, if not better, than some of the men. And it's like, why not just wrestle for that title? And you see the women with, their main title. There's a lot of promotions that are running like that. I mean, I just talked with JT Dunn recently, and he was talking about that he was like, just normalize it. He was like, we have like Davion, who is amazing, in the ring, who's held champions there. Even Chase DeMonte I just had on last night. We were talking about that too. And he was like, these women are just as good, if not better than the men. And why not? It's one of my favorite things. I would prefer that, me personally. Like, I prefer intergender over like, women's matches, or sometimes even like the, man on man, sometimes depending on the match. I was just talking to a promoter earlier, and I was talking about, well, I'm gonna call her Casey Kirk because of the Kirks, pretty much like Casey Catal, and she was someone that when I first found her, she wrestled Jimmy Lloyd in a death match. And I was like, this girl is a bad fucking ass. Now she's one of my best friends in like real life. Like, I always hang out with her and stuff like that outside of wrestling. And like I was just talking about her match with LSG, and that was like a couple of years ago, and I'm like, this is one of my favorite matches with Casey. I was like, this was such a hard hitting match. But there's so we could talk about Yuta versus Trisha Dora. Like, we could just,
my God.
yeah, like I think I was funny because somebody messaged me that really isn't as deep into the indies recently. And they know I'm a huge fan of Yuta. Perfect Bridge. Hello. But yeah, just I love Yuta. Anyway, but I was saying, the guy texted me and he's like, I think I'm starting to get onto the Yuta trade. I was like, honey, I've been on the Yuta trade way before AEW. I was like, never mind that he did the Perfect Bridge, and there's video of me marking the hell out seeing it in person. But I was like, if you really want to see him, and then I started talking about Beyond, and I was like, watch his match with Trisha Dora. I was like, it's like, he needs to be a heel. I'm sorry, I love the Best Friends. Don't get me wrong, I love them so much. I love Orange Cassidy, but Yuta is not at his full potential in AEW. Make him heel and make him believable, because people don't even know. If you're not an indie fan, you don't know how good he is.
Yeah. Have him turn on Orange Cassidy is fuck that guy. Oh.
Or Trent, because it's like, why is he here? Like, because he kind of
That's so disrespectful. I don't mean to fuck you, Orange Cassidy, like that, but the comedy shit to me. This is how seriously I take Orange Cassidy. Okay, as a wrestler.
This is gonna go south real quick because I'm a huge Orange Cassidy fan.
Do you remember when Doc Gallows was Festus? Yeah, that's how I see Orange Cassidy.
Oh no, come on.
And it's because of the look, dude is crazy talented. I'll never take anything away from him. Dude has stupid amounts of physical ability. That's it. I'm bored. There's nothing compelling about Orange Cassidy to me. When I see him on the TV, I'm like, okay, this is what's going to happen. He's gonna shin
Well,
kick
you know, it's
somebody.
the gimmick. It's
Yeah,
the gimmick
and
because he was what was it, Red Ant in Chikara?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so it's like, all right, so this guy can go, and if you
Oh
like
yeah.
don't believe it, like just go back and watch like Red Ant at Chikara, and you can see like he can really wrestle. And you know, I supported Orange Cassidy way before AEW. And I used to go to like ICW in New York when it was not the deathmatch version of ICW when Jack Fallon ran ICW. So Orange Cassidy was there. Then I used to see him with the IWTV title. You know, there was a lot of things like I used to flip off all the time because I'm like, dude, why are we not doing the orange juice spot? I was like in AEW where he had the orange juice in his pocket. I was like, then he would break it out and he would spit it all over people. I was like, bring that back. Okay. But that's the thing. Everybody, like, you have your, you
Yeah.
know, what you like, right? I like a little bit of everything, you know? So it's like, I really love Orange Cassidy. I like to have those moments where, you know, you have those comical relief, you know, matches.
Yeah.
Now, could I do a whole entire show of it? I don't think so. But I also like the shows I've seen tribute shows where you can tell the wrestlers are having fun too, trying to stay in their character, but it's
Mhm.
kind of not really stay, and it's not meant to completely stay in
Mhm.
character. They're having fun. Those are the best shows. So I like a little bit of everything. So, but me, like, I love Orange Cassidy. But
Like I said, I don't want to take anything away
yeah,
from dude. Like
no, yeah,
that match he had with Jericho with that stupid fucking
yeah,
mimosa bullshit match,
mhm,
whatever. The match in and of itself, before Jericho got dumped into the fucking pool, the match in and of itself was dope. I mean,
mhm,
dope. The guy, he can go straight up and down. There's no hate for me on that.
mhm,
For me, Orange Cassidy is a place on the card that this is what he feels like to me. He feels like the match that needs to come after the when Undertaker lost to Brock. And everybody was super silent and the crowd was just gone. Orange Cassidy needs to be the match after that so people can see how he can go and people can realize like, okay, this isn't going to be something for the world heavyweight title or
yeah,
something, something I don't necessarily have to invest in long term,
mhm,
but it's a fun one-off kind of every once in a while type of match.
mhm,
Yeah, but like you said, everybody likes something different.
yeah,
I'm also not a giant deathmatch fan,
right.
but when they're done right, they look fucking like what's that dude's name? Nick Gage versus Jericho on AEW was dope. Was really
That's
dope.
not even
But
when I
that's
was
not
doing
even a real
my
death
that's
match.
not even real death match. It
No.
was funny because when I was running my AW podcast and we were talking about it, I'm like, this was a teaser. I was like, for someone like me who loves deathmatch wrestling, goes to deathmatch tournaments, supports the deathmatch community. Again, like I said, I support everything, you know, like
Yeah.
I love light tubes, you know, like I love, you know, all that crazy stuff, you know. And again, like I said, I can appreciate, you know, just a regular technical match or what,
Mhm.
you know, whatever. I like a lot of everything. So, but to that for TV, I think it was huge for the deathmatch scene. You know, that it was like, okay, we're finally having like a death match on TV, and it's like Nick Gage
Death
on
match.
AEW,
Yeah.
but that's nowhere near me watching something
Oh,
go to a GCW show and watching full blown like a tournament of death or something, you know, like
or CZW back in the day, or
yeah, tournament of survival and
if you
all that
guys
stuff.
listen, if you guys want to talk, we're talking about intergender wrestling. If you want to talk about a bad motherfucker who's an intergender wrestler as a woman, Alley Catch, dude, Alley Catch, Effie, like those two right now are two of my favorites on the independent scene, and I don't get to see them at all in Texas
Mhm.
because they're like Alley Catch is always traveling and Effie's always around the world, but like you're gonna fall in love with Tommy Vendetta if you really dig death matches like that. He's
Yeah.
the death match guy. Like this dude, I've seen him wrestle like Lego, like wrestle with Legos and fucking tacks and staples, and he's done some other more outrageous shit. But again, that's not my flavor, so I kind of stay a little bit more away
Mhm.
from it. But I will never knock somebody for being a deathmatch fan because I do look. Independent wrestling is not for everybody.
Yeah. It
And
can be though if you find the right,
yeah,
promotion or right,
talent.
like yeah, like there you really can get onto a big train of the indies.
You
You
can.
really can. It's just really what you like.
Yeah.
So again,
And you
you
can
said
get
you're not a deathmatch person. That's fine. Like,
yeah.
GCW doesn't always run deathmatch shows. Like you can have just straight wrestling
Oh
at
yeah.
some of these GCW shows. It's really depending, obviously, if you're gonna go to a tournament, for death match, then yeah, it's gonna be all death matches. But then I remember because I wasn't into it either, and I was like, I don't want to watch that stuff. I don't want to watch that stuff. And they were like, Tiff, there's more to just death matches in GCW. And I was like, oh wow. Like again, like Orange Cassidy.
Mhm.
Orange Cassidy was a big role, like, there. So him and Dan Housing, like, or him and who else was it? Oh man, like I have it in my head.
Mhm.
Like Blake right now, but Chris Bay and Alex Zane like wrestles in GCW. It was a regular match. They don't do death matches. Like, so
Thunder
it's really,
Roses wrestled in
yeah.
GCW. Jeff
They,
Jarrett's now in Matt Cardona. Like you're
Yup.
getting big, big, big giant names to GCW. I met what was his name? Kevin something
Gill,
from GCW. Yes,
Kevin
I
Gill.
met Kevin Gill
Mhm,
because two of my buddies used to do a podcast with Vampiro.
mhm, mhm,
And Vampiro had us all on this like round table thing.
mhm.
And I got to talk to Kevin Gill and I got to talk to Vampiro, which is obviously dope because I'm a huge Vampiro fan. Um, but that's the beauty of independent wrestling. Like right now, everybody knows they need a brand. Everybody knows they
Yeah.
need to promote. Everybody knows they need connections, right?
Right. Right.
Instead of paying $100, $200, whatever the case is, to get a new logo and get this distributed and da 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 da. Let's go on a podcast.
Yeah.
Even if right now, like my streamers aren't a whole lot, the people who download my podcast are. So after the fact, you're getting however many people download my podcast for free.
Yeah.
It's free advertising. And
Oh yeah.
that's what's so dope. And that's why I love independent wrestling. Independent wrestlers need that free advertising and
Yeah.
want to use it. And for the most part are gracious when you give it to them.
Yeah.
Everybody knows I had Nick Aldis on my show.
Mhm.
And it wasn't a bad interview. It didn't go miserable, but it was just a perfect storm of tech issues, when the internet connectivity just
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
work. And then like he was either tired or maybe I said something stupid, which is very possible because I'm stupid sometimes. But he just wasn't as giving like as
Mhm.
the independent wrestlers that I found with dude. When I had Tommy Vendetta on, we talked for 2.5 hours.
Oh yeah.
When I had Aaron Orion on, 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
With Aldis, we hit 59 minutes and we were done.
Mhm.
Done, which is fine. I'll keep to a
Yeah.
schedule. I have no problem with that. But I've come to the realization for me that I'm gonna kind of be exactly what you are, and that's an independent wrestler, interviewer slash podcaster, and doing other stuff with it because they're just so much more fun to talk to.
Yeah.
They're so much more personable and cool
Oh yeah.
and just fucking awesome.
I have fun with them.
Oh yeah. Like I've bought I had shirts made for a couple of wrestlers that so
Yeah.
I sponsored Mission Pro one time and I
Mhm.
had 19 shirts made for all of the talent
Aw.
with my logo on them.
Mhm.
One, as a sponsor, if you give gifts to the talent, they tend to remember you.
Yeah.
Two, it's free advertising for me. Yes, I
Yeah.
paid a little bit of money to have the shirts printed.
Yeah. But they appreciate it.
And I went literally after that show. I had maybe 150 Twitter followers after that show. I jumped up to 400 within an hour
See?
because people were posting pictures with my logo on it.
Mhm.
You can't do that in WWE or
No.
AEW or even New Japan. Like these
Yeah.
smaller companies where you can form relationships with. I love it so much. We're about 45 minutes in. So where the wrestling with positivity thing is, like we talked about in the beginning, is one of my favorite things going on the internet right now because we need the positivity.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself aside from where you're at now, are there any aspirations to actually work inside the wrestling business?
Mm, that was never the goal. I was doing the podcast for a hobby, for fun. And I was like, wherever it takes me, it takes me. And I get a lot of opportunities that I work backstage. I get to do a lot of stuff for, my channel. I get to promote promotions, like I'm going up to Chaotic Wrestling Friday. I'm gonna be backstage, with the unit now own, JT Dunn, and they kind of own Chaotic Wrestling right now. So I get to do a lot of candid interviews, and I'm very appreciative of that. And like I said, if it happens, great. It's not like, oh my god, it has to happen or this or whatever. It's like I'm easy peasy. Like I'm having fun. And that's what I had always said. I was like, the minute I stop having fun doing these interviews or these podcasts or anything with wrestling, that I was just gonna stop. It wasn't gonna change anything for me. And that's what I do. And like I know like lately, like a lot of people like they're like, I see you working harder. I was like, I don't know. I was like, it's just I have a lot of fun doing these interviews or whatever, my paddles or whatever, I do on the channel. And if we could add more, great. Like there's just so much talent. Like I'm trying to put over, just I don't have enough time.
Yeah. There's, I have to give you a compliment too. I'm gonna put you over for a second. I was watching. Ooh, I can't even remember which one it was. But
It's a lot.
what you do well that I think a lot of interviewers don't do well is you let your guest talk.
Yeah.
And you let them finish a thought. And on top of that, the kind of 1A and 1B of that is you can tell when you're interviewing somebody, you're a fan of this shit. And
Yeah.
I think that gets lost a lot.
Yeah.
And people start making this a job and
Yeah.
stop realizing like, hey, dude, when I was like 5 or 6, I was watching WrestleMania 3 with my grandma talking about Macho Man, Macho Man and Ricky Steamboat. Like, and now I get to interview people who are taking bumps.
Yeah.
It's such that it's one of the things that I watched one of the episodes and I was like,
Mhm.
damn, she does that really, really well. And it's one of the things that I try, and Kenji said, just going to add, bless y'all for not having the same boring questions that you can get 500,000 times on
Yeah.
other podcasts.
It's hard sometimes because everybody's got different fan base too, and this is what I've also explained to some of my guests too that come on, and I was like, look, one rule of thumb for me is if I don't know you, you're not coming on my podcast. I don't want to look like that asshole that just wants you because it's trending, but not know anything about you. I want to learn about you before I put you on my podcast. So most of the people that come on my podcast, they've seen me at shows. I support them. I tweet at them if I'm not at the show and I'm watching their matches. I get to work backstage for a lot of different promotions. So they see I am true fan. And not only that, because of the fact that I do put a lot of clips up on my channel, I post them too for the wrestlers. And a lot of times they'll come after me and be like, can I have that clip? Do you mind? And like, take it, like use it. That's fine. Like just kind of credit me a little, just that I took the video. It's like that's all I asked, But other than that, like I want to know you. And again, like when I do my interviews, yes, I am a fan of that person that comes on to the podcast, number one. And number two, again, like just because I know them doesn't necessarily mean my fan base knows them. So I do recycle a lot of questions for every podcast interview that I do because everybody's got a different story. So I think maybe that's also something like wrestlers, I get it. You guys do a lot of podcasts, but it's also the criteria of what that podcaster is doing. So with me, because of the fact that I'm a fan, that doesn't mean, fan A and
that
fan
I'm gonna be
B.
a fan. Yeah.
Right. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, now I'm trying to get you sucked into this wrestler. Like, how did they start? And, why, what's the go-to match that they should watch of yours? Like, I could sit here, I can tell you about all the matches that I enjoyed. But
Mhm.
I think it's more interesting from the wrestler's perspective to give that, because something that I might like, you might not even like. That you thought it
Mhm.
sucked, because I've had those conversations with wrestlers that sucked. And I'm like, it was good. No, it sucked. And I'm like, okay. Like, and you guys are very critiquing of your own stuff. So I rather ask the perspective of the wrestler that comes onto my podcast. Like, okay, so here's fan A, never saw you before. What's that match that's going to make them a fan of you?
Yep.
So, but yeah, I want to learn about the wrestlers that I support. And Marcus Matters is a young talent. Like, he's been on. A lot of people didn't really know who he was like a year ago. Now he's starting to blow up. And I put a tweet out the other day, and I was like, I got to bring Marcus Matters back onto the podcast. He's like, and he's gonna do it because he knows me, and I've been big supporter of his or whatever. And I was sitting there and I was thinking about it. I was like, because I like to be prepared, and I prepare all my questions beforehand when I have somebody on. And I was like, I really don't even need to prepare any questions for him, because of the fact that I know him so damn well, that I could sit there and not have any questions.
Yeah.
And just go on the fly with him.
Yeah.
So,
And Kenji said, I think there's some questions that are always going to be a thing and should be for sure.
yeah,
Like for me, I tend to be like, how did you come into fandom? Like,
yeah,
I want to know not just about you and your persona in the ring, but I want to know about you, the person.
right.
Because if I'm going to invest, I want to know who I'm investing in. Right. So there are definitely some beginner questions. There's one thing I want to ask you about. I was looking at your merch because I'm going to buy a shirt. I'm going to support, there is a shirt in your
I
T
think I
Public
already know
store,
where he's gonna go with this. I already know. The
Muff
muff
Cabbage
cabbage.
Crew. Yes.
Do it.
You have to explain that to me, because I saw that and I was like,
This is hysterical.
this is so random, but I like it.
I know. It was a whole story behind it. So Charles Mason, I fucking love Charles Mason. He's such an ass. He's like one of my favorite heels. So I went to a show with a couple of friends, and it was in Jersey. And he knows me. I'm the easiest target. Always that okay, Tiff's an easy target. I know her. I can come at her. I don't care, So we were having fun that show, and we were making signs, and there was a joke. I mean, we're not going to talk about the promotion because the promotion doesn't exist anymore, so we're not going to get into that. But I had that promoter on that week or the week before or something like that, and we were joking around, and he was like, Tiff, are you going to start rating butts at the show? And I was like, yes. I was like, I'm gonna get cardboard, and I'm gonna write numbers down, and I'm gonna put it up. I was like, it was a big joke, So the guy came out, and I was like, okay, well, obviously, we're gonna be 10, whatever. He came over to me, and he ripped up my sign. And it was hysterical. Again, I don't care, because again, like, here's a guy I had on the podcast. Like, he knows me. I'm easy target. So anyway, at the end of the match, he won. I can't. This story's just crazy. My friend, she starts screaming at him because he comes at me, and then he comes at her, and then she just in channel freaking South Park, and she's like, "You're Muff Cabbage," and I don't know where it came from, and it just kind of stuck, and we just kept calling him Muff Cabbage. And it's funny because
that's hilarious.
Muffy's here. The cabbage, Muffy the cabbage, Muff Cabbage. So this is bad, because if I start messing with you, and I'm good like that, and if I know it bothers you, I'm gonna go 10 times worse with it.
Of course.
So anyway, so this is Muffy. So I remember at one of the shows, we saw him again, and we're like, Muff Cabbage, you're freaking Muff Cabbage. And again, it's from a scene from South Park, like if you go look it up, like the Muff Cabbage scene, I think it was the Snooki thing or something in South Park. So she's always posting that gif muff cabbage. And so it started a whole thing because everybody started picking up on the whole muff cabbage at him, and it kind of really annoyed him because he said to us, "Where the hell did muff cabbage?" This was like backstage. Where did muff cabbage come from? And then we're like, I don't know. He goes, "It sounds like muffin top." He was like, "I work hard on my body," and it was the funniest thing. So he's like, "Stop calling me muff cabbage." So now we do it even harder, and that's where Muffy came in. So every time that we come to a show now, we bring Muffy. And we mess with him. So we just started the Muff Cabbage crew because people started jumping on the Muff Cabbage train. So
yes, I saw that shirt and I was like, okay, first I'm screenshotting this. But the first thing that came into my head, I was like, who is she calling a pussy? Like, God damn, like that's insanity. Because children, for those of you who don't know what muff is a slang word for, it is a colloquialism, $5 word for vagina. So when I saw that, I was like, this is either extremely raunchy or an extremely inside joke that I have no idea about. But that's so funny.
Joke. Yeah, so that's his dig, and every time we see him, we just start screaming muff cabbage, and he hates us for it. So like,
hey,
got him
they
over.
said boo the bad guys.
You gets him over. When it comes to the heels, I love you. I love you. I'm gonna mess with you. So it's funny I have him by me too.
That's funny. So we're coming. We can't keep Tiffany any longer than an hour. She's got other commitments she's got to go through. So, Tiff, I appreciate you coming on. I'm going to download and subscribe to the podcast now, and definitely have you back on. And if you ever need a filler guest, I'm always available.
We'll definitely collab on my side. So we'll do something. Like I said, I like to do like panels and. Sometimes I bring other podcasts on every once in a while. It's got to be like a, big panel I like to do because, mostly now the babies are the interviews with the wrestlers.
Yeah.
So we'll figure something out so you can come collab on my side. I would love to have it, or we just shoot the shit about like indie wrestling. So
hell yeah. So before we let you go, promote everything you've got, merch page, social media, everything.
Oh my goodness.
But specifically highlight, date for the Wrestling with Positivity episode.
Yeah, it's coming up to an end actually. So you could find me as it says at the bottom there, or if you listen to audio, you could find me personally at Loves to Dream 82, LUVS number 2 Dream 82. And then it's the Indie Wrestling Corner is my channel. I'm everywhere. Just search Indie Wrestling Corner. The link tree is actually on the Twitter, so you can click it. You can find it whether you're an Anchor person or a Twitch person or YouTube person. I'm everywhere. The merch page is on there as well. I got to bring back a Patreon. I've been meaning to bring back a Patreon, so we can have some fun with that too. Because I like to do a little outside of wrestling with that stuff. So I'll eventually get back to that. My Wrestling with Positivity video is actually ending tomorrow, my date, because I wanted to put this out by Valentine's Day because I thought it would be a great, great way, to show off Valentine's Day, right? So that's my Valentine's pretty much is my podcast. But it's just that I've been promoting this for 3 weeks now. I have to have that cutoff time. This weekend I am not going to be around, so it needs to be edited Thursday. I need to finish my edit Thursday so that I could upload it for Monday. And because of the fact that I won't be around and I'll be doing backstage stuff this weekend at promotions, that I need to edit that stuff Sunday, so it needs to be done by tomorrow. So if you can get me something, like, just message me, or go on the Indie Wrestling Corner on Twitter, or like I said, personally message me at Loves to Dream 82. I am screening stories because sometimes some people just want to be a part of things and it's not exactly what I look for. I had somebody message me and they're like, "Oh, I saw your Wrestling with Positivity thing. I'd love to be a part of it." Like, okay, what's your story? Oh, wrestling. I know that. Tell me your story. And they're like, "Oh, a diva made me feel okay."
Not exactly what we're going for.
You gotta give me a little bit more if you want to do this and be a part of it. So I think a lot of people just want to be a part of something to say like they've been on the podcast. So, but I'm actually looking for very specific, stories. And I have like a whole bunch that, like I said, it really depends on what you're telling me about. Obviously, it's independent related. So I'm not looking for something from AW or WWE or any or the big, big names like that. I'm looking for the indie scene where like a wrestler made you feel like, like special somehow, showed up at a birthday party, a ref let you come into the ring and pin them or something, or a company did a charity event to raise money for a promotion, for like uh
charities or
yeah,
whatever.
like something like, like I had a couple of those stories, maybe a wrestler reached out to a fan because the fan was having a hard time mentally, like a mental breakdown or something. Like those are the stories that I'm like looking for. And it really depends on, case to case. So I have to be very picky of what I'm looking for, so it's no offense to anybody, but there's a lot of stories out there and I'm being very specific of what I'm looking for in this video. And again, like I said, this is going to be a series. It's going to be a very random series. Like I said, I did one last year, doing it again, maybe 6 months from now, maybe I'll do another one. So yeah, so by tomorrow night is my cutoff. And again, like I said, you could record with me. You could record something on your phone and email it to me, or you could write something. I'm also okay with if you want it to be anonymous, because I had a couple of people that really didn't want to give their name, but they wanted to tell the story, and I'm perfectly fine with that too. Whatever makes anybody comfortable. That's pretty much what I'm doing. So I'm really, really excited for that. I'm so glad that you got excited for this. It's very special to me. Alex Zane, I just had that interview with him, and we were talking about that. He's like, I love that you're doing this. He was like, and he had a bunch of stories, and it just melts my heart, everything that like I hear. So more positive, less negative.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like I said, when I saw you doing it, that's why I messaged you and I told you my daughter's story, because it's something that people need to hear, man.
Yeah.
A lot of the fucking clowns on Twitter, and this is where I'm going to rant for a couple seconds before we let you go.
Mhm.
A couple of fucking these clowns on Twitter, some of these fucking clowns on Twitter who are mad because there's a transgender wrestler, or mad because somebody's fat, or mad because
Oh my
somebody's
God. I saw
black,
that one
or
today too. Like, who
the
cares? How
the
does that
hate.
pay your bills? Does that pay your bills? Does
Yeah,
that make you sleep at night? Like the fuck out of here. I'm
get the
sorry.
fuck
It's
out
like
of my
the
face,
New
you
York, the New
fuck.
York in me, it
Yeah,
makes me so mad. And like I see stuff and then friends send me stuff. I'm like, ignore it. Don't engage in it. Just move
yeah,
on. I was like, I get it. Drama sells. People like that shit, but don't fuel it. So
yeah.
I'm gonna fuel and whatever. If one person watches my video, cool. Like
Hell yeah.
I'm happy about that I probably made someone's day. Me doing these videos and me doing these stories, like obviously like all the feedback that I'm getting back to do this stuff is amazing, and that's enough for me. So again, like I said, if I have one person watch my video, that's cool for me.
Yeah,
Like, if I
absolutely.
made someone's day, great, that's enough for
Absolutely.
me.
It's such a dope thing that you're doing. And it's something, look, anytime you're going to do this, DM me and I will promo the fuck out of it for you
Thank
on my
you.
show.
Thank
This
you.
is such a dope ass concept. And I don't carry a whole lot of weight, but the weight that I do carry, I want to throw it all behind this positivity and
Thank
all
you.
behind the concept that you're doing. It's so fucking dope. There's gonna be, guys, when I post the episode in the liner notes, I'm gonna post all her Twitter info, her Instagram info, all of that stuff. You guys go follow Tiffany. Her
Thank
podcast is
you.
dope. Her interview style is dope. The concept for wrestling with positivity is out of this fucking world. And honestly, I can't believe it took this long to get it done like this. But before we close out, I say this every podcast, and it's hitting me more that I need to say it even more. If you are struggling with your mental health, man, woman, child, I don't care. Please reach out to me. My DMs are open. If you don't want to talk on Twitter or Instagram, I will give you my fucking phone number and we will talk. Please, please, please reach out to somebody. If it's not me, somebody. Reach out to somebody.
Yeah.
There's no reason to take a permanent solution for a temporary problem.
Yep.
Please reach out. Tiff, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for
You're a
having me.
fucking fantastic person. I can't
Thank
wait to do
you.
this again and
Yes.
mark out with you about fucking indie wrestling.
Anytime. I am down for it. I really appreciate that. You know, you love the project and you had me on. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for everybody who tuned in.
Absolutely. You guys, thank you for supporting. Thank you for listening and watching and wherever you get the podcast at. I appreciate the love that you guys show me and the support that you guys have given me more than you will ever know. And remember, chaos is life and life is chaos.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Be sure and follow the podcast on Twitter